All right, what's going on, my friends? Rip City Drive. Boy, a lot of different things that I want to get to today. I will say this I may get to it later in the show, I may not. I received one of the more bizarre letters I've ever gotten in my life working in radio. And we have in the building here at iHeart, we're located in Tigard, right across the freeway from the Mormon Temple. And you can see the iHeart sign when you drive by on the freeway. I'm just trying to give you a picture of where we're at. Well, in the building on my floor, this is floor 3 where all the studios are located. Floor 4 also belongs to us, and that's where kind of the nerve center of all of our radio stations are. But, anyways, if you walk down out of the studio close to the main entrance into our floor number 3, we have like this old school mail system with different slots for all the different stations. And so occasionally when I'm out there, I'll walk by and take a look and see what's in one of our mail slots. And I got a letter a few days ago and I opened it up and it was addressed to me. And I started reading it and I was like, wait, what? I couldn't believe it. So I may share it with you, but I may not. I don't know if I want to share it because they definitely take a shot at me, but I think I might. So I think you'll enjoy it. So we'll get to that. Sean Hike and our Trailblazer Insider is going to join us for the 4 o'clock hour in studio. I love talking with Sean. We definitely want to hit on the playoffs, which, Burkhart and I have been talking about this last couple of days. The playoffs here in the first round have been so fascinating that it's reinvigorated my love of NBA basketball. And it was much needed, like a shot in the arm. And I've always been a big NBA fan, but like anything else, I fall in and out of love with different sports. Sports are much like the women in my life. I fall in love and then I fall out of love, but I've rediscovered my love for basketball through these playoffs. I love the action. And tonight, my two favorite series, a couple of big games Houston, Golden State, Lakers, Timberwolves. It's going to be awesome. So I can't wait to watch those games. So we'll talk hoops. Also, the Trailblazers with multiple maneuvers today. So we'll get to all of that with Sean. Now, coming up at 3:20, my man Casey Bay here at iHeart, he completed his Beefwater one-man march for autism today. I actually went down before my workout to Motor Center right there in the Rose Quarter as he came in, and there was a whole group of people, including people from the Trailblazers, both mascots, including Blitz or Blaze. Blitz. I got football in my mind. So there was a bunch of people down there, but the whole event was great. And I was listening on the radio this morning, 1059 The Brew, and had the opportunity to follow along on the entire walk. And he got there inside of 4 hours. And they ended up raising, I think the last number I heard was up over $7,000. And this is an idea that was organic, that started 10 days ago, and it blew up into something that was big. And props to Fox 12 for being there to follow them along on the process. Shake Shack stopped in midway through their walk and delivered a lemonade to Casey so he'd have some refreshment on the walk. So he's going to come in and share the story, but I think it's great. And most importantly, it's for something that's close to my heart, to raise awareness and money for autism and the Autism Society, which does great work. And I like talking about it because, I've got a son who's autistic. And I can tell you that the entire process of looking at your young child and recognizing that maybe something's a little bit off, and then dealing with the denial that comes with someone saying, hey, there might be something off with your son. You need to get him checked out, as my brother did. And I didn't want to believe it. And then you get the diagnosis. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, what the hell is autism? And you have to process that. And then you go through the step-by-step journey to get more information, to learn more about autism, and then to try and figure out how to make life work within your family with the special needs. And I was talking to Casey today, and the biggest challenge I've had throughout the course of time that Isaac's been on the planet in 22 years, I don't know what he's aware of and what he's not. Meaning, when it comes to discipline, I don't know what to hold him accountable for and what not to. I don't know in many situations if he truly understands. I don't know. And it's really weird to operate in that realm. Now, my daughter is quote unquote normal, whatever the heck that means in today's world. Like she understands certain things, like don't do this, don't do that. Don't invade someone's personal space inside a Starbucks. Don't walk up and start hugging strangers. Like, my daughter will understand that. But with Isaac, it's like, well, why not? I'm just trying to make friends. So it's been an interesting journey, and I'm proud of what Casey was able to accomplish. So we'll get into that. If you want to reach out to me, you can do so, 503-248-0620. You can also find me on social at Chad and Rip City. Now, I would recommend, we're also on YouTube. Just go to youtube.com and pull up our homepage, Rip City Radio 620. All of the shows are posted up there. You can also watch live if your eyes will allow you to stare at my mug for a few hours. But with the new iHeartRadio app, our free iHeartRadio app, I would suggest going in and, making Rip City Radio one of your presets. And the reason why the presets are nice is that you can access the station easily, you can listen live, or you can podcast the interviews, much like yesterday when we had Sarah Borham from Clackamas in studio, who's going to be an Oregon Duck, and is a sensational three-point shooter. But that's what I do. I've got 620 as one of my presets. I have 850 KOA in Denver as one of my presets because I like to go there and listen to their shows for enjoyment for my Bronco information, my Denver Broncos information. But I would encourage you to do that, and then you can podcast and access everything right there. I also like using the app in my car because I can run Rip City Radio through my Bluetooth, and then you get that beautiful, crystal clear stereo sound, which is nice. So just a tool for you to utilize to make your listening habits that much easier. Now, I do want to touch on this before Casey Bay joins us in studio. One of the big stories in sports over the last couple of days has been Bill Belichick and that wildly bizarre interview that was on CBS Sunday Morning, where Belichick was being interviewed. His 24-year-old girlfriend, Jordan, was off camera, but giving direction to Bill and the interviewer on what they should and should not talk about. Take a listen to this clip released from CBS.
Do you feel like you were treated with dignity and respect when you were let go by Robert Kraft?
Yeah, well, it was a mutual decision for us to part ways.
He said fired.
It was a mutual decision.
The other change for Belichick is 24-year-old Jordan Hudson, his creative muse, as he writes in his book.
Make sure that that's the...
Jordan was a constant presence during our interview.
You have Jordan right over there. Everybody in the world seems to be following this relationship. They've got an opinion about your private life. It's got nothing to do with them, but they're invested in it. How do you deal with that?
Never been too worried about what everybody else thinks. Just try to do what I feel like is best for me and what's right.
How did you guys meet?
Not talking about this.
No?
No.
It's a topic neither one of them is comfortable commenting on, though Hudson has recently posted about it on Instagram.
You joined InstaFace, as you put it. I love that. There's some great pictures of you and Jordan, where you're a fisherman and she's a mermaid. It's charming. It's a different side of you. What's the reaction been like?
What's it been like?
To have these different sort of photos. There's another one where you're doing, I know you're not into meditation or yoga or Pilates. You're balancing Jordan on your feet. She's doing kind of the Titanic pose.
Yeah, so I'm on some of those social media platforms, but I honestly don't follow them.
Very comfortable, Coach. Nice work. So the reason why that video was so bizarre is that, as I mentioned yesterday, Bill Belichick is the most successful coach in the history of the NFL. He is a control freak on levels that you can't believe, like most coaches are. They want to be in control of everything, practices, the narrative, what their players do. It's like, look, here's the play. Run it exactly how I tell you to run it. It's part of their craziness that makes them successful. They're in control of everything. He used to coach Lawrence Taylor and tell him what to do. He would call out Tom Brady on a weekly basis. Heck, he would even ignore his owner, Bob Kraft, when he was walking through the hallways there at the Patriots facility. But now he can't even have an interview. And keep in mind, he's a very intelligent man without his girlfriend, Jordan, telling him what he can and can't talk about. Bizarre on many levels. Well, because that little clip did not present Jordan in a good light, North Carolina and Coach Belichick have responded. And here's a quote from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill head coach Bill Belichick that was released today. Quote, I agreed to speak with CBS Sunday morning to promote my new book, The Art of Winning, Lessons from My Football and Life in Football. Prior to this interview, I clearly communicated with my publicist at Simon & Schuster that any promotional interviews I participated in would agree to focus solely on the contents of the book. Unfortunately, the expectation was not honored during the interview. I was surprised when unrelated topics were introduced, and I repeatedly expressed to the reporter and the producers that I preferred to keep the conversation centered on the book. After this occurred several times, Jordan, with whom I share both a personal and professional relationship, stepped in to reiterate that point to help focus the discussion. She was not deflecting any specific question or topic, but simply doing her job to ensure that the interview stayed on track. Some of the clips make it appear as though we were avoiding the question of how we met, but we have been open about the fact that Jordan and I met on a flight to Palm Beach in 2021. The final 8-minute segment does not reflect the productive 35-minute conversation we had, which covered a wide range of topics related to my career. Instead, it prevents selectively edited clips and stills from just a few minutes of the interview to suggest a false narrative that Jordan was attempting to control the conversation, which is simply not true. All right, there is the response from Coach Belichick and North Carolina. And CBS has sent out their own response. CBS News, quote, when we agreed to speak with Mr. Belichick, it was for a wide-ranging interview. There were no preconditions or limitations to this conversation. This was confirmed repeatedly with his publisher before the interview took place and after it was completed. A CBS News spokesperson. Okay, this is awesome. Everything about this is awesome because you and I all know that it's going to end badly, and we just don't know when. I think one valid question would be, which will last longer, Belichick's tenure at North Carolina or his relationship with Jordan Hudson? And look, I don't know for sure. I'm pretty sure I know what's going on here. On one side, you have someone that offers access, prestige, fame, copious amounts of money. And on the other side, you have someone that offers, shall we say, greatness behind closed doors. That's my read on the situation. Now, again, I could be wrong. You know, maybe Bill's a sapiosexual, and maybe she's just wildly intelligent, and her mind stimulates his mind. That's possible. It's quite possible. Or it's also possible that the toe-curling action that he's experiencing in his life are reaching levels he never thought possible, and therefore he is, like any man in that type of situation, willing to put up with a lot based on the benefits. That's possible, too. I don't know which. I'll let you decide. But what I would suggest is that CBS just release the entire interview. Because what I think happened, and Chris Burkhardt is here, and of course he's been a reporter and journalist and done a lot of work in these categories. My read on the situation is that CBS specifically released that clip that showed Jordan directing some of the conversation because over that 35-minute period, my guess would be is that she was injecting herself so much that she became a part of the story, and they felt as journalists that they needed to show what was really taking place inside the walls of the interview. That would be my guess. And if they release the entire interview, which Belichick better be careful about, it might showcase that it was far worse than that one little clip. What do you think about this, Chris? Is that an accurate assessment on CBS's stance?
I think it's 100% accurate. If someone does that like once, maybe twice in an interview, it's nothing. But if they continue to do it, you draw attention to it because it's kind of ridiculous.
Wouldn't you be a little bit concerned if you were the powers to be at North Carolina about this whole situation?
Absolutely, I would. I think you signed up for Bill Belichick, not Jordan Hudson.
All right. That's where we're at. Mood. My name is Mood. All right, we'll come back. Casey Bay going to join us. We'll talk about his Beefwater one-man march for autism. He made it all the way in less than 4 hours. When I last saw him this morning, he was in the process of trying to comprehend what had just taken place. My guess is his body and his hips are a little bit sore now, and also mask at chaos with his cell phone, too. I think he had to go get a new screen put on his phone. So we'll deal with that coming up next. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing. Sean Highkin, our Trailblazer Insider in Studio 4. All right, my man Casey Bay is in. We'll get to the walk in just a moment. We were just talking about taking your car in for service. And one of the great experiences is to go into your shop or your dealer to get the oil change. And then they come back with what you just told me was Flim Flam, where they offer like 10 different things. We recommend these services, right? I just went in 2 weeks ago to get my car serviced, get the oil change, and just some basic stuff done. And they came back with the pictures and recommendations, and they recommended some guard at the front of my grill, right? And it's to keep rodents out. And they showed me a picture of a friggin' rodent nest that was up underneath the hood. And I'm like, this is crazy. I drive all the time. I don't know how any rodent would have time to build a nest. So when I went to pay and time to check out, I said, hey, did they take that nest out of there? And the guy said, let me check with the technician. They didn't take it out. And so I had to ask him to take it out. And I said, I'm paying you, and I come in all the time. Like, why wouldn't they remove the nest? He goes, well, sir, technically we're technicians, not pest removal. I'm like, okay, whatever, man.
I've got a bunch of questions on this guard, by the way, too. Are they putting something completely under your car? Like, they're going to find their way in,
Yeah,
man.
I know.
So, yeah, Flim Flam for sure. There's always something that you need. They've always got a $200 something for you that you need to do today, or you might not make it home.
And I love you because you went in the other day and said, hey, I just need an oil change, no Flim Flam.
Yeah, I told him straight up, like, look, man. And last time I'll give you one upsell. Take your pick. Which one's it going to be? We're not going through 5. I'll let you have
Which one of these would you recommend the most? And I love it because if you push them on it, they'll be honest with you.
Sure.
He's like, yeah, I wouldn't. I know they recommended tires, but he goes, based on the marking, he goes, I would wait
You don't
probably
really need
6
them.
months.
All right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
5 minutes ago, this was a $1,300 problem. Now we're okay. Okay. Flim Flam.
Dude, I got to tell you what. Today was one of those special days for me where I was reminded of why I love radio so much, because the 105.9 The Brew Morning Show, Tanner, Drew, and Laura, they were with you from 6:09 in the morning all the way up until the very end when you reached your destination at Moda Center in less than 4 hours. And so I got to hear you throughout the entire journey, all the way up to Moda Center, and it was fabulous, man. It was so much fun. And then I was down there. The weather was perfect. And to see the elation on your face, knowing what had taken place over the last 10 days for this to come together. So congratulations. What
Thank
a day,
you.
man. It was awesome.
What a day is exactly right. As I was, we were on the Instagram Live the whole time. So I had literally the camera in my face the whole way. And, you're just thinking out loud while you're doing it. And that was the thing that kept circling back to me, was like, what a day. Like, I just couldn't believe the updates that kept coming in. And then, boom, somebody donated $1,000 in one swing. And that just took me over the top, because that hit the goal of $5,000, which I thought was not even possible. And then boom, before you know it, we're knocking at $7,000, and I crossed the finish line. We cleared $7,000 with the help of Shake Shack, and I just I was at a loss for words at it. Like, it's an emotional thing. The news is there. The news was here in the parking lot when I headed out the front door.
And that was Fox 12 Oregon,
Fox
right?
12, man, they were on it the whole time. They were catching footage all the way along the journey. They were there at the finish line, and they even let me do a live cut-in on the morning show, which is a bold maneuver.
Yeah.
But hand me a hot mic after a 10-mile walk. But we did it, man, and I feel good. So thank you for, sharing your platform as well and letting me come in here and promote it. Everybody here at iHeart's been fantastic. And it's just an overwhelming feeling to have an idea, have it come to life, and then crush the goal that you had in your mind.
Yeah. And so let's go back to the beginning. So roughly 10 days ago, your son has autism, my son has autism. You just thought, hey, I would like to do something just to raise awareness for autism.
Right.
Yeah.
I threw it out there in a meeting, kind of like, let's put a pin in this. Maybe this time next year, let's get something on the books and do something.
Yeah.
And so then it's like what? And I'm like, I think a walk would be cool. Like, if we just stay live and do something. And then it was like, well, okay, well, where can we go within the show? So you got a 4-hour show. Started looking around for landmarks. The Moda Center just seemed to be the easiest, biggest landmark, and it was 3 hours and 57 minutes away from here.
Yeah.
So I mean, now we're racing the clock. We're a crosswalk stoppage away from getting blown out, and we did it. So ended up leaving here 10 minutes late, and I still beat it by 20 minutes or something like that.
That's awesome.
So it would have been 30 minutes had I got out the door actually on time. But it was incredible, and all the calls, all the talkbacks, I mean, it was just support from start to finish, and I just couldn't be more proud.
Well, I think there's some thank yous. First off, to all of the listeners and the people within the community, your generosity to step up and donate and be a part of this. None of this would be possible without the people listening
100%.
and the support from the community. So a big thanks to all of you. It really means a lot to us. It's awesome. Also, Tanner, Drew, and Laura, 105.9 The Brew, the morning show. They were more than willing and happy to be a part of it and to help power the voice to get it out there.
Absolutely. Plus, they get to tell me I'm fat and I'm barely going to be lucky to make it there and all kinds of stuff.
Dad
right?
bod.
Yeah. Dad bod in the house representing. And
Even when you're on the steel bridge, you're like, hey, you're not there yet. You know, you pull a muscle.
Dude, I'm here. I'm holding down 2 minutes. We're just letting the band warm up at this point.
Yeah.
I'm here. As soon as I saw the Moda Center from Waterfront Park, I was like, okay, man, we're gonna do it.
We got this, yeah. So big thanks to Tanner, Drew, and Laura. Shake Shack. They reached out to us, wanted to be a part of it, and they donated 25% of their sales from yesterday to donate to the Autism Society, which is freaking awesome.
Yeah. So we got, I think it was just under $400 or something like that from Shake Shack, which was a sweet icing on the cake. Autism Society Oregon, what a great partnership that's turned into.
They were on hand today.
Yeah, they not only on hand, so they're on the route. So they're on their office is on Barber Boulevard.
Awesome.
So I walked past there, and then as I'm walking, holding a sign, Lori from Autism Society of Oregon, holding a sign, cheering me on. So did a little stop, quick, hugged it out, high-fived her son, and kept on pushing.
Gosh, I love that.
Yeah.
Fox 12 Oregon, obviously big props. Above and beyond to come out and not just do an interview for a quickie, but to follow you along the entire path.
Right. Like we've had the news cover, bacon and beer broadcast. We've had, we've had it. But then when you watch it, it's this 30-second little snippet. It zips right through. And you go, oh, man, well, it's cool that we got some coverage. But a lot of times they leave the station out or whatever, right? And today it was just full tilt. Covered it just post to post. And then, like I said, let me go live. So I got to plug whatever I wanted to plug at the end. And it was absolutely amazing.
Also, big props to the Portland Trailblazers, who are a great partner with iHeart Portland. They were more than happy to let you come into the Rose Quarter. And then on top of that, like if I'm finishing a race, I want mascots to welcome me home, right?
Absolutely.
And they were both there.
We had both mascots. We had some Blazer dancers. It's just, what more can you ask for? Like, it was just, it really made me feel special, which I try to, like, I didn't want this to be about me. Yeah. I'm happy to be the conduit to do it,
yeah.
But I want to, I don't want the spotlight to be on me as the individual.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I'm grateful for it. But I'm one of thousands of dads in this position, and I don't want to look like I'm some kind of hero.
Yeah, and your motivation was pure from the standpoint that, hey, my son's older now. Both our sons are about the same age.
Right.
So we're on the other side of the real difficult stuff when you're first finding out, you're getting the diagnosis, and you're trying to figure out what the hell's going on. It's tough. But your whole point was, it's like, hey, I'm with all of you that are going through this, who are experiencing it for the first time, and I'm just here to let you know that you're not alone, and there are better days ahead.
Right. You're going to get through it. There's also, hit these people up. They've got the resources. They can point you in the right direction. And a lot of it is at no cost. And they also will help you if you don't have a diagnosis, which had I known about that in when we first found out, that would have been a game changer.
Now, dude, there was actually a band when I was walking up
full
on
35-piece marching band waiting for me to cross that bridge,
It was
bro.
so awesome because when I parked and started walking over, I'm like, it sounded like I was going to a high school football game. Off in the distance, I heard it. I was like, I walk up and see the scene. I was like, what the heck's going on? Baton twirlers and a full marching band. I couldn't believe it.
Like, the pomp and circumstance was just over the top. And Look, our sales department, they were out there with signs. Our GM Marshall, he met me along the route just to give me a high five. And
Marshall did?
Yeah.
Oh,
and just
yeah.
to come out and say, good job, man. Everything sounds great. The broadcast sounds awesome. So I just, I don't have enough thank yous in me at this point in time. Like, I'm so grateful. The Shake Shack stopped. All of a sudden, this window rolls down. Homeboy hands me a strawberry lemonade. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
this day is bananas.
That's great, man. What did your wife think about the whole thing when you told her what was going down?
She thought it was absolutely great. And she just last night, she's like, you're going to make it. It's going to be fine. And, I wish my son was more aware of what it was because I wish we could share it. But you know how it is.
Yeah, I do. Like I told Isaac what you were doing. He's like, "Oh, that's nice."
Yeah.
And then he was on to the next subject.
That's it. Like it was
In and out,
a
baby.
2-minute thing. That's it. Like, so hey, all right, that's cool. Can we go to Cinnabon?
Does he like
Oh,
Cinnabon?
he loves
I told you
Cinnabon.
about Isaac buying just a ridiculous amount of Cinnabons.
I would like $90 worth of cinnamon rolls, please.
Grandpa was like, "What, Isaac? What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I'm going to save these." He puts them in the freezer and says, "I'm like, you don't need to buy
Yeah.
12 Cinnabons all at the same time, you freak."
But look, it's the stockpile, man. You got to have them when you need them.
Chris Burkhardt, what you got, buddy?
Hey, we've had a couple callers listening in wanting to know, Casey, if there's a way to still contribute or put some money in on this.
What was the question?
Is there still a way to put money in?
Oh, yeah,
on what's
the
going
link
on?
is still live. So if you go to 1059thebrew.com, just scroll down, you'll see the one-man march. You'll see the little autism awareness infinity logo.
Yeah.
And click on that and throw the donation in as you choose. I think that's going to stay up through the end of the week.
Yeah, so through the end of the week, go to 1059thebrew.com and scroll down. You'll see Beef Waters One-Man March for Autism. Click on that, and you'll go right to the spot that you need for donation. The funny thing is, the reason why you had to ask me what was said is that you don't have your headphones on, which is weird because when I first asked you when you came in, like, do you need headphones? You're like, dude, I got headphones all
Yeah,
over the
look,
place.
I'm not here to throw anybody under the bus, Joe, in engineering, but this jack is messed up over here.
It is messed up. You can't hear anything out of it. Also, how are your hips? Because I knew that last time I saw you, I dropped you off at the station, and you were still processing. Like, we're a little bit tight now. How would you explain your body?
Oh, dude, I'm feeling it. Most definitely feeling it in my hips. Not as bad as it was maybe the first couple of hours after I finished up, but I think tomorrow I'm going to have a sweet welcoming committee right under my belt line going, hey, dude, what'd you do yesterday?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, what are we doing?
Well, yeah, my body's going to be asking lots of questions. But, man, I really felt like I held up good. I'm not the most in-shape, fit fella. I didn't, have enough time to like actively train for it or whatever. So I just kind of had to go buy some comfortable shoes and a sweet tracksuit and hope for the best.
You do look like a pimp, dude. I love the pimp tracksuit with the light blue.
Dude, we went
So
baby
badass.
blue, blue on blue. Autism awareness. That is the
the
color.
color.
So just again, over the moon with everything. Today has been one of the best days I've had in quite some time, and I'm with you. It lights the fire in what we're able to do. It reminds us the platform that we have
Yes.
and the duty that we share as broadcasters. Like
Yes.
that, it's our job to do that.
It is. It really is. I'm so proud of you, and I'm so proud of the people for stepping up and just being generous and helping out in something that's really special, especially for you and I who have sons with autism. And you helped me recognize, we were talking about this today after the walk. I would say one of the biggest challenges, and I'm just curious how you've looked at this over the course of time with your son. Like, I don't know. Discipline with an autistic child is difficult because there's times where I'm like, I know for sure that he understands right and wrong in this situation. But then there's other times where I'm like, I don't think he understands what the hell I'm talking about. And
Yeah.
it's so hard to know if he's pulling the wool over your eyes or if
And
he's
also, I'm sure you feel the same way. It's situation by situation. Like when they're escalated, you're not really getting through. Like you got to wait for that dust to settle, and then you can maybe go back and
not.
circle
Yeah, you
around
can't
for it.
reason with them when the
Nah.
emotion's high.
It's just not going to happen. So I find that if I'm in that circumstance, I just kind of back off, let it settle down. And I've noticed as he's gotten older, he'll process it on his own, and then he'll come back out and go, sorry for being rough on you, or sorry for being rude, or whatever the case may be. And that always makes me feel good that he's thinking it through of what happened and what went wrong, and his responsibility to correct it.
Yeah, I get that too sometimes from Isaac, where he'll blow up on me and have a real bad episode. But once that emotion settles, I love it when he comes back to me. He'll just put his head on my shoulder
Yeah.
and just say, "Hey, I'm sorry."
Because they get it, and and I get it, and I get that the way that your brain waves function that cause that to trip out. So it's cool. We'll get through it. Nothing's the end of the world, and we're gonna make it happen. So my thought on this thing today was what I've left off with is it's not the miles. And, anybody can pretty much do what I did today. It was not a miracle. I walked 10.4 miles. People run marathons all the time.
Yeah.
But what I say, it's not the miles, it was the magic that we created.
It was magic.
We pulled in things from all over the place. We businesses got excited, organizations got excited, our company got excited. And that's a rare feat to find these moments where everything fires and you meet no resistance along the way.
I think it's beautiful, and I love the fact that, like, just the picture of Shake Shack stopping off, rolling down a window. Here's a little lemonade for you, my friend. But you do deserve credit, you and Court Weber, as you learned today. Like, if you're walking in the Portland area, you walk Barber Boulevard, little dicey in certain spots.
Look. I saw my life flash before my eyes no less than 4 times. Those cars go zip. When you feel that, boom, then that air hits you, you're like, man, that's close.
Yeah, the sphincter will tighten up on that kind of stuff because you have certain spots on that roadway where you just don't have sidewalk or much of a shoulder. It's like, okay, got to be real careful over the next couple of seconds here.
And we went from sidewalk to no sidewalk in a bike lane to no sidewalk, no bike lane. And we're just like, what was the protocol when they put this road in? They're just like, pedestrians, this is not for you. This area is for cars only. But unless you want to risk your life, which we did. And you know what? I would do it again tomorrow for what we did.
Well, my dad wanted me to make sure I told you that he just wanted to thank you. He thinks everything that you did was awesome. And I was telling him how, because Isaac, plain hamburgers, right? Meat bun only. And he's adding some things and like a few vegetables. But I told him how you guys should have stock in Tillamook cheese because of all the Tillamook cheddar that your son is eating.
It's true, man.
Grilled cheese is his thing, right? So, and then Grandpa told me a story about they were at Red Robin this weekend. And, Isaac got his plain burger, but he's trying onions out now, too. So he wanted onions on his burger. Well, when they brought the burger out to him, meat and bun only, they had the onions on the plate, not on the burger, right? And he handed it back to the server. I was like, can you put onions on my burger, please? And so the server took them back, and they took the onions and put them on the burger. And Grandpa was like, you could have just lifted the bun up and put them on the burger. But it was like, Isaac's like, no, they didn't do it the right way. Well, when they brought it back, they had put the onions on the bottom bun, right?
Oh.
And so Isaac's like, he was twisted up on, hey, they didn't put them on the top of the burger, right? And so Grandpa's like, just flip the burger over.
Look,
Isaac's like, oh, yeah, I guess I could do that.
I had a very similar situation. Brought back his McDonald's. He loves the bacon double cheeseburger from McDonald's. No pickles, no onion, right? And so, well, as he says it, sans pickles, sans onions, right? And then, so I brought it, and then next thing I know, he's coming out and he goes, "Hey, I need you to come and look at this. What's wrong?" They put onions on my burger, and I go, well, there's like 5 little onions on. Like, you're not even going to taste it. Just try it out. Maybe you'll enjoy it. And he just looks at me and he goes, "I'm not interested." You're missing the point, dude. I need those onions gone.
No, I've learned when you go through the drive-through, I got to cross-check because if it's not the way he wants, he's just going to get irritated and he won't eat it.
Yeah, when you hand the plate off to him, he'll go, "Is the burger all clear?" Like he wants that.
And he's not joking.
He wants that pre-flight inspection, man. Make sure that thing's all right.
All right, Casey. Well, I tell you what, man, this is awesome. And the good thing is this is just the beginning because this is going to come around next year.
I think
we're envisioning possibly something bigger and better as we continue this mission to raise more awareness for autism. And props to the Autism Society.
Dude, and Shake Shack saying, "Hey, next year, how about maybe we try and stretch this thing out for a whole month?"
And get more locations involved.
And across the board. And it's like, man, you're the type of person I want to partner up with. Like, you see the vision, you see the potential, and let's just high five and crush it.
Big thanks to Autism Society, the Trailblazers, Fox 12 Oregon, the marching band, the baton twirlers, Shake Shack, everyone involved. This is awesome. And thank you, dude. This was great today.
Hey, thank you. And if anybody wants to check out the news clip, head over to Fox 12 Oregon. I just found it on their website, so it's posted. You'll get to see my interview at the end of the road there, and some footage along the way.
All right. And if you still want to donate, as Chris Burkhart brought up, just go to 1059thebrew.com. Scroll down. You'll find the icon for Beef Waters One Man March for Autism. Click on that, and you can donate, and it will be up until the end of the week. So you'll be good to go there. But Casey Bay in studio, thanks, brother. This is awesome today.
Thank you. Sincerely, thank you for all your support.
You got it. All right. We'll keep things rolling. Sean Highkin going to join us in studio coming up at 4 here on the Rip City Drive. All right, Scotty Bethune has chimed in. He makes a valid point. Hey, Isaac, don't hug strangers at Starbucks, yet his dad will slap you in the ass in public. Well, it is true that I did do that to you, my friend, but at least we know each other, right? And it was still
Flim
uncomfortable. Flim flam. I love what Casey said. Hey, I just need the oil change, no flim flam. All right, I got you. Yep, you got to be careful, man. You'll get the long list of recommendations. The worst, though, is when I ran into Scotty at the golf course early in the morning. And sometimes based on caffeine consumption, the coffee or whatever, there can be old dudes in and out of the bathroom real quick before they tee off. And I was going in to the stall as he was coming out. And so there's nothing worse than feeling the warmth of a person you know on the toilet seat as you sit down. But that was my experience with Scotty. And by the way, Scotty, are you done hunting turkey now? Can we go play golf together, you clown? Let's do this, all right? Let's go. Also, this is amazing to me, but the New York Mets have put out a post, and this is not something you expect to see every day, but their super fan has passed away. The Mets have just put out a post that says, "We are saddened to learn of the passing of Seymour Wiener." Now, apparently, it's an incredible name, by the way. They did it last year. They honored the 97-year-old veteran, Seymour Wiener. He instantly went viral and became a legend. The Mets hosted a dollar dog night in his name, and they sold a franchise record 44,269 hot dogs. And apparently he was a big fan of that idea. And there's a picture of Seymour holding a hot dog that says, "Everyone loves a wiener." Booyah! That guy is a legend and a badass. And Dollar Dog Night is a genius idea. I like these baseball clubs who are having these special nights now where they're lowering prices. So you can get like an actual hot dog for $1 instead of like an inflation burger. You know, sometimes eating at the ballpark can be a little bit spendy. Amazing. Seymour Wiener. The first thing I thought of when I saw that, Burkhart, was The Simpsons. And some dude calling into the bar asking if they can speak with Mr. Wiener, Seymour.
Yeah, that's 100% a Bart Simpson's prank call.
But can you imagine having that name? And this guy lived a long time, 98 years old. Can you imagine the relentless clowning he got from his boys over the course of his entire life?
I don't know. He was a World War II vet, so I'm pretty sure he shut some people up as soon as they started.
Dude, that's what I love about my grandpa and people from that day and age. No nonsense, man.
Oh, yeah. None.
It's like, okay, I'm going to kick your ass. Like my grandpa, my Nana told me the story. My Nana, when she was young, was in love with 2 men. Well, my papa found out who the other guy was and said, "That's my woman, and we're going to fight for her." So sure enough, they had a place, right? I think it was behind the library where they met to duke it out. And Papa won the fight, won the woman, and the rest is history. And my Nana told me the fact that he was willing to fight for me helped me to learn that he was the one for me. That sounds like something Seymour Wiener would have done, too.
It absolutely sounds like something he would have done.
You got a problem with my name?
Yeah.
I'll give you a knuckle sandwich.
Let me take you out
Jarhead. All right, when we come back, Sean Highkin from Rose Garden Report. A lot of things to talk about today, including some staff changes for Coach Billups, and we'll talk NBA playoffs. A phenomenal doubleheader coming up at 4:30. Rockets, Warriors, followed by the Timberwolves and Lakers. Sean Highkin up next on the Rip City Drive.
I don't do wieners.
coming up for the 4 o'clock hour. Chris Fleming, Roy Rogers, and Ryan Gomes will not be back next season with the Trailblazers as the team chose not to renew their contracts. We have an NBA playoff doubleheader coming up on TNT in 30 minutes. It's awesome. Warriors and Rockets, Game 5 in Houston, tip at 4:30. Houston favored by 3.5. The Warriors have a 3-1 series lead. It's 7 in Los Angeles. Timberwolves at the Lakers. LA favored by 5.5. The Wolves lead the series 3-1 after winning games 3 and 4 at home. From the NFL, the Jets quarterback Jordan Travis is going to retire due to his leg injury suffered at Florida State back in 2023. And this is an interesting note. At the age of 55, Andre Agassi won his professional pickleball debut. Of course he did. All right, Rip City Drive coming at you right now. Sean Hike and our Trailblazer insider from Rose Garden Report is in studio. Well, yeah, it's exciting, man, I like this song. When is there not a prime Gwen Stefani? Didn't you go see her in concert with the kids? That was Pink, right? Yeah, Pink. All right, Rip City Drive, Sean Hike and our Trailblazer insider from Rose Garden Report is in studio. Dude, great to see you, man. How are things cracking? I'm loving the playoffs. They've been great in the first round.
It's been a lot of fun. It's been kind of more fun across the board than a lot of first-round playoffs. Usually with the first round, you kind of hope to get one or two good series in the first round, but then most of it is just kind of like, okay, some of these teams that are clearly not as good as some of these other teams, just kind of you want to just kind of get them out of there, and both of the one seeds were able to do that. The Thunder got the Grizzlies out of there. The Cavs got the Heat out of there. But some of these other ones have been pretty interesting.
Well, you know what's weird about the Heat? I want to ask you this. They got crushed by the Cleveland Cavaliers. It sure looked to me, and I hate saying this, but it looked like they quit in Game 4, which is very bizarre to say for a Eric Spoelstra coach team, but it looked like they just shut it down and went Cancun.
I'm going to be honest with you. I wasn't really paying that close attention to that series.
I know no one was. It was a horrendous series.
The two that I just couldn't really tell you any. Like I did watch some of the Thunder Grizzlies stuff. The two series that I just could not tell you anything about how they actually went were the Cavs Heat series and the Magic Celtics. Those two I was just like, okay, I think I know what's going to happen here. I don't even need to.
You got to lock in.
Yeah.
No, I went in. My two favorite series before they even got underway were the Warriors and Rockets and the Timberwolves Lakers. Both series have been fabulous. And then after that was the Knicks and our adopted team, you and I, the Detroit Pistons. And what a great series that's been. And the Pistons got the win last night on the road in Game 5. Now they're going back to Detroit, and they have a chance to force a Game 7. They're playing great basketball. And I think the Knicks, because of their experience, might be a little bit better. But, man, the Pistons are hanging tough in this series, getting good play. J.B. Bickerstaff's doing a heck of a job, and Cade Cunningham is a budding superstar.
It's been awesome to watch Cade, make the playoff, level up in real time because he wasn't very good in the first game of this series, and then second game on, he's been awesome.
I love it so much. I've had a lot of fun, and Jalen Brunson's a lot of fun to watch. His scoring and shot making's been terrific. The shot making we saw in that wild Game 4 from Karl Anthony Towns was amazing. We had the critical no call. I want to ask you about that we saw at the end of Game 4 in Detroit, where clearly there was a foul on Hardaway Jr. at the end of the game, but it was a no call. And the NBA quickly came out and said, hey, we missed it. I love the way they're allowing these guys to play and bang and battle. That's the type of basketball I grew up with. So is there a way where the officials can maybe tighten it up in the final 2 minutes to where you can not miss a call like that? Or can we maybe get to a point where you can have the eye in the sky to be able to help you correct a situation in end-of-game situations where if you're going to miss a call like that, they can correct it on the fly? There's got to be something you can do. I want them to let the guys play like we've seen, but at the same time, you can't miss a call like that determines the outcome of the game. It's weird.
It is, but it's such a case-by-case thing because then if you look on the other side, the game, the last game of the Lakers-Timberwolves series, that eye in the sky camera caught the foul that LeBron committed on Anthony Edwards when they were reviewing an out of bounds call. So it's like sometimes they do look at it, they get it right, and sometimes they just like it's just one of those things that I mean, it's just kind of one of the. I mean, it sucks for Detroit that they lost on that call or on that no call, but I think on balance of they're letting them play. These games are more physical. They're not shooting a million free throws. It's more fun to watch overall than it would be if they were just calling every single thing. So if what's got to happen is they miss a call and it's not it's you don't want it, but it's not the end of the world to me.
Well, I'll tell you what amazed me in that moment with LeBron and the foul. How does the NBA not cut the feed on that overhead cam? I can't believe they allowed that because when I saw it, that was the only angle that clearly showed the contact on the wrist by LeBron. And I know that the NBA would prefer the Warriors and Lakers to be in the next round. So when they went to review, I was like, they're not going to call that a foul. And yet they did. And I do think it was a foul, and they got it right. But I just am surprised that it played out that way based on how important it would be for the league for the Lakers to advance. So that kills some conspiracies right there.
Occasionally they beat the allegations.
Yeah, occasionally. That's been a great series. I'll tell you what.
Clippers Nuggets too.
Oh, what a great series that's been. I thought last night's game, I guess what surprised me was just the sensational play of Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
Energy and shot making. He's making threes in this series. What in the world's going on?
He's going to give you one of those a series.
Yeah, he's been great. And I'll tell you what, Jokic has been good. But the Nuggets starters, just like the Lakers or a lot of these teams in the West, the Nuggets rely on a few guys. And those guys are stepping up and getting the job done. And for the Clippers, just missed opportunities once again. They should be up in this series, and they're not. And the Nuggets last night really playing well at home. That looks like a 7-game series for sure.
Oh, I think so too. And then with that series, it's and with the Nuggets, just kind of in general, it's you kind of know what you're going to get night to night from Jokic, but it's are they going to get enough from some of those supporting guys? And
like
last
Jamal
night
Murray.
they got a huge game from Jamal Murray, and then to your point, Russell Westbrook also, but. If they don't get that, then it's it's Jokic just against kind of this ensemble cast that the Clippers have out there. It's going to be a little bit harder, but yeah, that's been an awesome series. Just watching the different adjustments and watching how the teams are kind of just trading blows. That's been my favorite series.
What do you think about the job that David Adelman's done in this series so far?
I thought that leading into that, the last minute, the game winning dunk, I was like, I kind of felt like he was. It seemed like he was a little bit out of his depth, and that when they were blowing that 20-point lead.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I think he's adjusted well. It's been fine. Like I think he's acquitted himself well. I don't know whether he is going to actually end up keeping that job or not, but I think he's done. I think he's acquitted himself well.
Winning this series would go a long way to helping his case for sure.
Mm-hmm.
The great thing about that Aaron Gordon dunk is that I was so busy watching Jokic and the flight of the ball that. As I was watching it, Gordon came out of my left eye like a missile. And I was like, wait, what just happened? And Gordon got the dunk down, and I have no idea if his fingertips were still on the ball or not. I think they got the call right, but that was an awesome play because it was bang, bang. It was like you see the shot, you're like, that's way off. And then all of a sudden, Aaron Gordon just jams it down with authority.
I think it's one of those calls, and we're talking about the replay review stuff again. It's one of those calls, I think it was so close that either way they called it in the moment, they wouldn't have been able to overturn it. They called it good,
but there wasn't enough evidence
and there
to overturn
wasn't enough to say it wasn't
Yeah.
good. If they had called it not good, I don't know if there would have been enough to say, oh no, he actually got it out in time.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. All right, so do you expect the Nuggets to advance, or is it too close to call?
I mean, the Clippers have their next game at home. Like I think that series is going 7.
Yeah. All right, Lakers and Timberwolves. The Timberwolves have played extremely well.
Mhm.
Anthony Edwards has been the best superstar in the series thus far, and the Timberwolves have been great in the fourth quarter, dominant in the fourth quarter in this series. And what we're seeing from J.J. Redick is that he clearly does not trust the majority of guys on his roster. That's why he went with the same 5 guys for the entire second half. Do the Lakers have a chance to get back in this series, or is this just too much of an uphill battle against Minnesota, who's got more athleticism, more length, and a better defensive club?
Even going into this series, I didn't think the Lakers had enough depth, and clearly they agree with that assessment. I mean, they got an awesome game in the last one from Rui Hachimura. So like some of their their supporting guys around LeBron and Luka are have been stepping up, but it's like when you're looking at the supporting guys for the Lakers versus the Timberwolves, I feel a lot more confident in what Minnesota's doing. So I don't know whether it ends tonight or with the next game, but I think Minnesota's kind of going to win that series.
Yeah, and what's fascinating about that is the Warriors are expending a lot of energy right now playing the Rockets because the Rockets, even though they're young, physical team, length, great defensively, and you've got Draymond, Steph, and Jimmy Butler who are playing, long minutes in these games. Well, if you move past this series and then all of a sudden you match up with Minnesota, that's difficult to go back to back against Houston, Minnesota with the length and the athleticism. And it's going to test the Warriors' small lineup.
It is, and with that series, this is what we were talking about last week when I was in here. We just didn't know whether the Rockets have the offense to be able, even though we like a lot of what they do defensively, and we like a lot of the individual pieces they have. Just their offense is just so unreliable and is so it's not going to be able to compete with the Warriors. And the fact that they weren't able to win that game that Jimmy Butler didn't play.
That was a missed opportunity.
Yeah. Once that happened, I think that was probably the series right there, unfortunately.
Were you surprised that Draymond Green remained in the game 4?
It's so funny how that works because it's like, and I saw some tweet about this. I wish I could remember who said it, but it's like, Draymond Green is a reminder that you can have 5 fouls, a technical foul, and a flagrant foul and not get, and stay in the game.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. I thought that whole thing was a little bit, and honestly, the technical that he got for the thing with Amin Thompson and Dylan Brooks, I don't know if Draymond. He did because he's Draymond Green and he has that reputation or whatever. But I don't know if I would have given him technical there. I think it did seem like he in this situation. It seemed like he was kind of trying to de-escalate it. I don't know if I would have given him a tech.
Yeah, you're right. He's because of the reputation that's been earned. You're not going to get the benefit of the doubt in some type of scrum like that. But, it's funny, like with Draymond, and I've covered him for a long time like you have, it was the perfect example of everything he brings to the table. Mm-hmm. He did a lot of crazy things where he's walking right up to the line, nearly got himself booted from the game, and yet at the same time, he's one of those few players in the league who can have a dramatic impact on the game and not do anything on the offensive end of things. His defense, his understanding of the offense, his passing, the free safety role he plays on the defensive end of the floor, the toughness he brings to the team. He obviously intimidates. Like, he does so many good things. He's like the heart and soul of that club. And so they need him, and he's so valuable to them. And I guess because of his value, they just look past and work with him on his chaos. But he made some big-time plays in that game. And, I guess what he did against Şengün, like, I thought Şengün got up a good shot. It just didn't go in. But Draymond did a good job of holding his ground and forcing a longer hook shot from Şengün than maybe what he wanted. So it didn't go in.
Şengün's had kind of a rough series. Like, it's just, maybe it's just that his misses have been so, like, he's made a couple of plays in each of these games where it was like, it's like one of the worst misses that I've ever seen, or he'll like, go for like a post up and he'll like go up for a layup and it just isn't even close. And it's like, I don't know. I think this is just a bad series for him. This is a bad matchup for him.
I was just surprised to see Green get up only 8 shots and play 25 minutes. It's like, come on, man. Shooting guard, you need more.
Ime must just not trust him. 25 minutes? I don't know.
Man, it's crazy. Yeah, it's been a fun series. And tonight's game is going to be fun. These two teams don't particularly like each other. I thought Jimmy Butler was great in game 4. Steph Curry, I guess fatigue maybe played a role in his performance in game 4, but I would expect the Rockets to win tonight and at least push it back to a game 6 in San Francisco, and we'll see how things shake out from there. I think they still have a chance, but they're just too unreliable on offense. They had that game 4, 1-2, and they couldn't hold on.
I kind of think both of these series end tonight, the Lakers Warriors and the Rockets. Or not the Lakers Warriors, the Lakers Timberwolves, Rockets Warriors. I
think the Wolves get the deal done. I just wonder if when you only have 5 guys that you trust on the floor, I just don't know how much energy they're going to have tonight. And the Wolves, they're going to come out. They smell blood, man. Mm-hmm. They're going to come after him.
Anthony Edwards is one of those guys, and we've seen that in the playoffs the last few years.
And he's being treated like a legitimate superstar now. He's splitting double teams, getting past 3 guys, attacking the rim. And he's been a big-time shot maker in the 4th. He's a tough dude.
Yeah.
He's crazy. All right, we'll keep things rolling. We'll come back. Next up on the Rip City Drive, we'll deal with the staff changes with Coach Phillips, and we'll get Sean's thoughts on that. You got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, we got some news. Chris Fleming, Roy Rogers, and Ryan Gomes, all assistants for the Trailblazers, will not be back next season. And this news was a surprise to you and to everyone, right? No one expected this change coming down. And you had put out a mailbag addressing the assistants, and it ended up being a change. And you know what happens. Like I read your piece this morning, and then I saw the news. I was like, what happened here? But this makes sense to me from the standpoint that Coach Billups gets a new deal. He's going to be in place for a long time. Obviously, he'll have more input on the coaches he wants to work with. So I'm always a big believer in this, is that if you have a chance to upgrade and to make improvements anywhere within your organization at any point in time and you got the opportunity to do it, go out and make it happen. It's a good thing.
Yeah, I think that the extension that Chauncey Billups signed does give them a little bit more of an opportunity to do that, as far as, you know, if they hit the, you know, assistant coaching market this offseason. Because you have to remember what kind of happened last year. They didn't renew the contracts of Scott Brooks, Rodney Billups. Those are the two guys that they let go. And then Steve Hetzel, another one of their assistants who was pretty well regarded, actually left to go to Brooklyn. He just took a different job. They didn't let him go. So that's three of their guys that they decided to change out. And that was, also with the backdrop of they chose not to fire Chauncey Billups, and they also didn't pick up his fifth-year option. So it was like he was going to come into the season on a lame duck deal. So they switched out some of his assistants. When you're going out trying to hire assistant coaches, and that's the situation, and there are so many other coaching jobs that are open around the league, as there were, you look at last offseason, the Phoenix job changed out, the Cleveland job, the Detroit job, there were 5 or 6 head coaching jobs. And, usually when a new head coach comes in, they're going to want to bring in their own assistants. And so there's going to be some stuff, the Lakers job, obviously. And so if you're a team like the Blazers, where you're sitting there, you've got a coach that's on basically a 1-year prove it deal. Most people kind of assume that he's not going to be back after this final year that he has under contract. And most people assume, and this also didn't happen, most people assume that this team that they would be coming into is going to probably win 20 games because they had just won 21 games. That's not the most attractive job to the caliber of assistant coaching candidates that you would hope to get in that spot. And this is not anything against any of the guys that they let go. This because I obviously those all Chris Fleming got a lot of credit publicly for helping Scoot Henderson in his second season, and Ryan Gomes, really well-liked player development guy, and Roy Rogers has been with Chauncey from the beginning. So, this is not anything against any of them, but it's like you have, now that Chauncey has his new contract, he's got a little bit more job security. And so he's going to be able to, him and Joe are going to be able to, let's say, swim in a little bit deeper waters as far as the types of, coaching candidates they're going to be able to get for the staff, and actually say, hey, look, we, look at the second half of this past season, we've actually got kind of a good thing going, and the coach and the GM both just signed extensions, so you don't have to worry about instability or taking a job and then everybody being gone in a year. You don't have to worry about any of that. So I think I think the hope is that when they make these changes this summer, those are going to be the last changes they make for a while.
Yeah, and one of Chauncey Billups' great strengths that I believe is his connections around the NBA. Meaning Chauncey is, and you and I both know this, well-liked around the association, meaning there are guys that like him. He's got a relationship with a lot of different guys, which means he's got the ability to go out and have conversations with coaches that could dramatically upgrade his situation in Portland. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, and it's and I think I'm going to be really curious who they bring in and what the timeline of that is. They didn't change out the entire staff. There's still some of the, Nate Bjorkgren is still there. Jonah Herskew is still there. Ronnie Burrell, one of the guys that they hired last year, is still there. Couple of their player development guys, Pooh Jeter and Gil Abraham, are still there. So there is still going to be some continuity with the staff as of right now. Obviously, they could make more changes. I'm not going to sit here and say definitively that they aren't, but as of right now, those guys that I just named are still here. So there's going to be some continuity probably, and then we'll see what they're able to do as far as changing out the rest of the staff with these changes that they made today.
All right, Sean Highkin, our Trailblazer insider from Rose Garden Report in studio. You just put together a mailbag. I'm curious, what is the number one question that you're getting from fans and your readers right now? What's the number one thing they want to know?
Well, the thing that was good about this round of mailbags, and there's going to be more of it coming this week, was that I didn't really get a lot of repeat questions. And I think part of it is that when I put out the call for questions, I kind of put in a disclaimer of like, hey, let's wait on any kind of draft stuff until after the lottery, because I don't want to like do a bunch of, hypotheticals of like, oh, who do they like at the 10th pick, Kasparis from Illinois or Asa Newell or whoever. And then they jump up into the top 4 and that stuff. Like I basically said, like, let's not do any draft stuff until after we know where they're picking. And even with that, like I got, I didn't really get too many repeat questions. I got this stuff about the coaching staff. I got one about Anthony Simons' future. I got one about, there's some other ones. There was a Chauncey one, because people I think still want to understand what was going on with the extension and kind of what changed there. Just there's a lot of different topics that kind of were touched on.
All right, so maybe this is a better way to ask you then. What is the number one story in your mind that you're following with the Trailblazers for this offseason? What's the most intriguing question to you about this team?
So outside of the draft, because that's obviously the thing, now that we know that the coaching situation is going to continue.
Yeah, and if they jump up and get number one, that becomes the dominant story.
That becomes the thing. But but putting the draft stuff aside, because again, I don't even want to get into any draft stuff until after we know where they're picking. I think how they resolve some of the backcourt stuff, because as of right now, Anthony Simons, Scoot Henderson, and Shaden Sharp are still on the roster. I don't know. I mean, you would just think, just logically, oh, well, clearly they're going to trade Anthony Simons. I don't know if they necessarily are like eager to do that. I think they might still feel like what he brings as a scorer is something that fills some of the void that maybe they have on the rest of their roster, because, as good as they are defensively, they don't have a lot of shooting, and that's one of his strengths. And so, they have that. They kind of know what he is on that front. But then it's like, okay, Shaden Sharp had an awesome second half of the season, but is that enough to know that he's, one of your guys going forward? Scoot really, put it together the second half of the season. Do you know that he's one of your guys? So they're going to have to kind of figure, and I don't know, have a lean about like which way they're going to go, which two guys are going to pick, or like they're definitely going to do this or they're definitely going to not do that. But that's something that I think they're going to probably have to have some sort of clarity on going into training camp.
Let's say they all three come back.
Yeah.
If you're unable to make a move this summer, would you expect Simons and Sharp to be the starting backcourt with Scoot coming off the bench, or Scoot and Ant? What would you expect?
I would think just positionally it would be Simons and Sharp, but then it's like, you picked Scoot 3rd overall and he's going to go into his 3rd year coming off the bench. So it's like, what are you kind of what are you doing there at that point? So that's why this is a thing that's intriguing to me.
And Sharp not being in the starting lineup based on the surge that he had.
Right. I don't know. That's why it's an intriguing thing to follow. I don't have the answers, and I don't think they will either until we get past, once you get past the lottery. I mean, whatever trades I think they make this summer are probably going to happen. Most of the trades that happen the ones that aren't like the superstar trades that are, like the Dame trade or whatever that drag out into the offseason because of negotiating. The ones that are kind of the lower level, like rotational guys, whether it's Simons or, Jeremy Grant or whoever it is that these guys would be talking about. Those deals usually happen the week of the draft. The trade to get Jeremy here happened the week of the draft in 2022, the day before the draft. The Denny Avdia trade last year happened on draft night, when they kind of went into that day thinking, okay, so, this is going to be the move we make. This is what the draft board looks like. A lot of teams, I think, are going to be looking at, different things. I think, usually draft week and like the week between the draft and free agency, that's when a lot of this stuff kind of gets resolved. And then obviously, some of the bigger dominoes, around the league, whether it be, this Giannis stuff that we're talking about now that the Bucks are done, or Kevin Durant, whatever happens with that with Phoenix. That's going to, I think, dictate what a lot of teams do. So there's still a whole lot of moving parts.
All right. Let's assume that you get the value in return that you're looking for with your veterans. Is it fair to say that Grant and Ant would be the top 2 priorities? If you're able to find the right value in return for those two, that would be the 2 guys that you would want to move out first?
I think Grant is the number 1 guy just because there's not really a lot of, like I was just saying, there's a lot of, there's still questions about like which 2 of the 3 guards are the ones that are going forward. I don't think as far as the forwards, there's really a lot of questions. It has to be Avdia and Kamara. And so Grant, like, I don't know what his, unless he's going to stay here and come off the bench, which I don't see him being thrilled about. Like so, like that to me, that's by far the one that you have to figure something out with this summer.
Yeah, that would not, in my mind, it's not ideal. If you start next year with Grant starting and you don't have both Tamani and Avdia in the starting lineup, that's an issue.
Or you're starting those two and you are paying Grant $32 million to come off the bench, which I mean, I don't think Jeremy would make it into a problem because that's like not his personality, but that's not going to be what he wants.
No, and you don't want, in terms of resources being used, you don't want $32 million a year being on the bench.
I think that's the one that if there's one guy that I think they like last summer, I'll put it this way: last summer, you go into the last day of the season, the thing you know is that the guy they had to trade last summer was Brogdon.
Yeah,
and they did as part of the Avdia trade.
That had to be done.
It had to be done. They did that. I think if there's one guy, and this was actually a mailbag question that I answered a couple days ago, but if there's one guy that I think they really should do everything they can to move this summer, that would be Jeremy Grant, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think it's the end of the world if Ant's on the roster to begin the year because you still have several months leading up to the deadline before you can still get something done, and you can get something done. And plus, it doesn't. If you start the year out with Ant, and because I think it would be Ant and Sharp in the backcourt, well, like we saw at the second half of the year, even if that's the case and you got Scoot coming off the bench, there's still plenty of minutes in key situations where you can get Scoot on the floor to continue his development. It's maybe not ideal or the perfect situation, but you can make it work. But Grant coming back and starting and keeping Avdia and Kamara separated in the starting lineup and those two guys getting less minutes, that's not good because I do know one thing for certain. The Blazers are at their best when Avdia and Kamara are on the floor together.
And I think that's one of the things they figured out this summer, or not this summer, this season.
Yes.
We
all saw it.
Everybody saw it. Those are their two best players. And so those are the two guys. I mean, obviously the wrench that gets thrown into this thing would be if those 3.7% odds hit in a couple of weeks and they get Cooper Flagg, who's also a power forward, then that's a little bit of a different question of like, okay, so are those guys both going to start or is one of them going to come off? That's a little bit of a different thing. But
my whole thought is like, if that's a problem you have,
it's a good problem.
I can just answer one thing. Flagg is starting, and I don't give a rip who goes to the bench.
That's a good problem to have. But that's a little bit of a different thing than this idea of Jeremy Grant still being on the roster and those two guys needing to start.
Yeah, there's no question. And you and I both know that if they somehow get the fortune of getting Cooper Flagg, it changes. Everything changes.
It changes
expectations, the lineup, what you can do. Everything's. It just you just rip it up and you're going in a totally different direction.
Well, I think the expectations have changed regardless because at their press conference where Joe and Chauncey both announced their extensions,
just listen to them.
Joe said that they don't want to be in the lottery next year and making the playoffs is a reasonable goal for them. And Chauncey said that they're moving on from the rebuilding phase. So they said that. They put that out there. And, I mean, Joe did qualify it a little bit by, like, we have to see how this transaction cycle goes. But they did put that out there that their goal is to Joe's direct quote was, it's a reasonable expectation for us to be competing for the playoffs. So now that they've put that out there, the expectations have changed. So now it's, that they're going to be judged on that as opposed to just, are they making progress? Are the young guys getting better? Now they're going to kind of be judged on results to a degree that they haven't been the last couple of years.
And I got to be frank with you, based on what I saw in the second half of the season, especially with their defensive improvement and the individual improvement from all the five guys that we enjoy watching. Yeah, being a playing team is absolutely a reasonable goal.
You look at some of these teams that did make the play-in, like,
yes,
I think these guys could have. You saw like what Sacramento and Dallas in those play-in games. These guys could have won 2 games against those if they had.
There's no question. And the other part that excites me is that it is a reasonable expectation that the 5 guys who improved dramatically this year, they're all young. Mm-hmm. So my expectation is that I don't know how much improvement, but we're going to see improvement from Scoot, Shaden, Klingon, Tamani, and Denny. I think all 5 of them will continue to grow, which means what we saw at the end, they're going to build on what they had at the second half of last season. That's a good thing.
What I would be worried about is putting too much into like, oh, well, they got, Denny got this much better this year, so he's just going to get that much. Like, assuming that it's linear.
Now it's more incremental growth.
That's what I would be worried about is extrapolating too much out of the.
Yeah, Denny. I don't know how much Denny's got left in terms of how much more he can raise his game.
I think there's levels more for him to get to, but I don't know if I don't know if it would be reasonable to say like, oh, well, he got this much better this year, so now in 2 years he's going to be like an All NBA guy. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know if I'm there with that.
Here's what I know. I don't. I mean, he could develop into like a close to a number one option. That I think is it's possible. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but when I look at his ceiling now, I'm thinking he might be able to develop into what close to being a number one option. But I see him more as a number two, but a viable number two option next to a star.
I think that's a little bit more reasonable than
Yeah.
a number one. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's not impossible. It's happened. It's
Well-
happened. You can't expect it, but it's been done.
Yeah. But what were his? I don't know off the top of my head. What were Avdia's averages over the course of the year?
I don't have them off the top of my head either. What I can tell you is that they just announced this within the last half hour. He got a first place vote in most improved player, as well as a couple of second place votes and a couple of third place
That's
votes. So
terrific.
him and Tumani both got votes.
All right. So this year for the Trailblazers, let's see here. 16 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists a game. 16, 7, and 4.
The shooting held level too. He had that huge jump in his last year with Washington that we thought was kind of a blip, and then it wasn't.
He shot 36.5% from downtown and 47% from the field.
Yeah.
Well, if Avdia comes back next year and gives you 17 points, 7 boards, and 4 assists a game,
That's a good number two option.
yeah, that's freaking awesome.
It's just, do they have the number one option? Is that somebody they're going to trade for? Is that Cooper Flagg if they get really lucky in the lottery, or whoever else in the top four? I don't know.
That's really the big question, I think.
Yeah.
In terms of the long-term look at the roster. We know that they have potential number two. We know that they have at least 5 young guys who can be impactful. We just don't know if they have the number one. Now, if you hear Coach Billups at the end of the season presser, he thinks that it's possible that that guy could be on the roster, that maybe he just needs more development. If I had to choose of the 5 who would develop into your number one option, I would say Shaden Sharp. But I don't know. Maybe they don't have the number one. But there's a lot of teams out there that aren't certain they have a number one. It's hard to come by. Those guys don't grow on trees.
And I think there's also an element of this because of like the way that Chauncey's playing career went and the team that he won a title with. I think there's this thought that because the team that he won a title on in Detroit didn't necessarily have a traditional superstar,
Yeah.
that this team doesn't necessarily have to either. I don't know if putting that expectation on them is necessarily fair either, but
No. But you know he believes it because he did it.
he did absolutely.
And that's a legitimate message that you can give to a team like, hey, we don't have to have a Kevin Durant or a superstar.
Totally.
The guys that we have, I've done it. I've seen it been done. If we play this way and approach things in this fashion, we can get to where we want to be.
But you're kind of seeing some of the drawbacks of that approach with Houston in the playoffs this year, which we were just talking about earlier.
Yeah. Of course, in my lifetime, that Detroit team's like the
That's
only
the
team.
one.
It's the only team.
Just like some second round pick that's really good. It's like, oh well, Jokic was a second round pick. It's like, yeah, that's happened once.
Yeah. So in the time I've been watching basketball, Bird won it for the Celtics, Magic, Kareem with the Lakers,
Jordan.
Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars, Jordan a bunch of times, Hakeem Olajuwon,
Uh-huh.
San Antonio with Tim Duncan. Just take your pick.
LeBron. All
LeBron.
those times.
Kobe and Powell.
Kawhi with the Raptors that one year.
Yeah.
Steph, Clay, that whole group, and Durant.
Yeah. My entire life, there's only one year.
Yeah.
So to say that you need a number one I have no issue with that statement.
Yeah.
Unless you're the 0304 Pistons.
Yeah.
All right, we'll keep things rolling. We'll hear from Giannis. I want to get Sean's thoughts on that. And you can find Sean on social at Hyken. You can also read him at Rose Garden Report. Early first quarter score down in Houston. The Rockets lead the Warriors 10-8 with 9:18 left in the first. All right, Sean Hyken in studio, our Trailblazer insider from Rose Garden Report. So 2026 is when the WNBA will begin play here in Portland.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm
And-
excited to see some of the other teams come in. I know Chris has got 3 daughters, so he's excited to get
yeah.
his girls out to a game. And I know you've been covering the league and are excited about that. But it's going to be nice. I think it's going to work really well this time
I
around.
think it's going to be cool. And I actually kind of wish I'm not going to be able to go because I'm going to be in Chicago when it happens in the next couple of weeks. But the Liberty are playing a preseason game, I think against a Japanese team in Eugene in a
Oh.
couple weeks.
That should do very well.
Because of, I think they wanted to have Sabrina, which I kind of wish they had done, Liberty versus Phoenix because Satu Sabali is in Phoenix now. They could have done that, but they're doing it against a Japanese team. So
That's cool. I had Sarah Barhom in studio yesterday who was a star at Clackamas, and now she's going to go play for the Ducks down in Eugene.
okay,
And it was cool to talk to her because she has a dream of being in the WNBA, and
Yeah.
she's a terrific three-point shooter, but, she really wants to be one of those role models that can connect younger gals to
Sure.
the game of basketball. And what I'm hoping is with this this new female basketball star that we've seen both in college and the WNBA, that some of our younger, better female athletes will, choose basketball so we can get, better talent in, better games, and the league will continue to flourish from that.
you mean here locally?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you got Sabrina who's been doing it, and Satu, and then Cameron Brink is there now, and like Jazzy Davidson who just committed to USC. She's going to be playing there next year. I just saw her at Nike Hoop Summit a couple weeks ago. So it's a nice little pipeline here.
Yeah, and what I've learned about sports, whether it's regardless of sport, women's basketball, men's basketball, tennis, whatever the case may be, if you have talent, I'll tune in and watch.
Sure.
That's what it comes down to for me, like star power. And, the idea of being able to go to the arena and watch Caitlin Clark play basketball here in Portland, like, sign me up for that. I'm totally down. I'm into that. Right now, the Rockets on top of the Warriors 20-11. So Houston with the early advantage midway through the first quarter. Coming up at 7, the Timberwolves and Lakers from Crypto.com Arena. So 2 great games tonight in the world of basketball. All right, so what else? Outside of those veterans, is there anything else that catches your eye with the Blazers? So we know we got the lottery coming up on May 12th, which is huge. And then free agency, which will kick off at the end of June, beginning of July. So, really, those are the 2 big stories, right? Lottery and the veteran players that they have and what their plan's going to be. Is there anything else?
That's kind of, again, now that the coaching thing is settled.
Those are the 2 big things.
As far as, we spend most of the year thinking we were going to be covering a coaching search right now. That's obviously not the way that it went. So other than that, yeah, we'll find out on May 12th where they land in the lottery. We'll find out whether they stay at 10 or they move up into the top 4, and then we'll start covering that accordingly after the because the lottery happens in Chicago, and I'm going to be in Chicago that whole week. But like the lottery happens in Chicago, and that's the same week as the pre-draft combine, which is when teams start meeting with, like, the Blazers. Like, Joe Cronin's going to be out there. His whole front office staff is going to be out there watching these guys do these drills and scrimmages and stuff. And they'll start meeting with these guys in person. And then after that is when they teams will start bringing these guys in for in-person workouts at their facilities. And so then you'll start to hear, okay, they brought this guy in. They might be looking at this guy, or, this workout. You start to hear, okay, this went well, this didn't go well, whatever. So that over the next, I would say 6 weeks, we're going to start to hear a lot more stuff about that. But it all really doesn't kick off until May 12th.
All right, I want to bring in Chris Burkhardt. Chris, I just asked Sean this. So for you, like, what's the big question you have about this team as we move into the offseason? Is it the veterans and what they choose to do with them? Is it the lottery? Is that your main focus? Like, what's the big question you have?
It's how they approach the trade market, because you guys were talking about it earlier. You got to find a way to offload Jeremy Grant. I think that's the biggest question mark right now. How do you get off him, free up those minutes for Denny and 2 moving forward, and then do what else you do after that? I think that's the biggest thing I'm watching.
Did I catch you when you were eating something?
Always.
What are you chomping on, man?
I'm a baseball player. It's baseball season. Seeds all day.
Oh, seeds, baby.
All day long.
I don't have a problem with that. I like that. I like pumpkin seeds. I like sunflower seeds. Sign me up for the seeds.
Absolutely.
You a big seed guy? Do you like
mm,
when you snack? What do you snack on?
I'm a big. I've started getting into the kind of the dried fruit game a little bit.
Oh yeah,
Like-
I'm
like
down
the
with that. I had some
mangoes?
mango last
Yeah,
night.
yeah,
I took one bite and I was like, oh, it's unbelievable.
yeah. I've been on that lately.
Yeah, mango is good. I love going to Trader Joe's because their selection of dried fruits, it just goes on and on and on. But the mango that's money.
That's been what I've been on lately. But yeah,
You're not going to get off that anytime soon. I can
No,
tell you that much
probably
because it's
not.
one of those things that you don't get tired of real quick.
and it's also healthy.
yeah, it's healthy.
Like it's not like you don't feel bad about it.
No, I don't feel like the law of diminishing return applies to dried fruit. It just works. All right, man, that goes by fast. It goes by so quick when you're in here, buddy.
Yeah.
All right, Sean Highkin, he's going to join me next week. And the following week, he'll be in Chicago, and we'll get his takes following the draft lottery, which is May 12th. All right, Sean Highkin, read him at rosegardenreport.com. You can follow him on social at Highkin. Big thanks to Sean Highkin. Sean, thanks, buddy. I appreciate you.
Always.
All right, we'll keep things rolling here. 28-13 Rockets, 4:40 to play in the first in Houston. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing. Hey, what's going on, my friends? Chad here. It's now 5 o'clock. Checking the NBA scoreboard. Right now, first quarter in Houston, the Rockets are on top of the Warriors by a score of 35-19 with 3:10 to play in the first quarter. Coming up at 7 on TNT, the Timberwolves are at the Lakers. LA, a 5.5-point favorite. The Wolves lead that series 3-1 after taking both games 3 and 4 at Target Center. From the NFL, Jets quarterback Jordan Travis is going to retire due to a leg injury suffered at Florida State at the end of the season back in 2023. Andre Agassi won his first professional pickleball debut. Got more of the Rip City Drive with Chad Doing coming at you right now. All right, not sure what the Warriors are doing right now, but they're down by 17 with 2:32 to play in the first quarter. I mean, I guess the game's not critical for them, but if you play that dangerous game of going back to San Francisco, you got to watch out, or you might find yourself in a Game 7 back in Houston. So we'll keep an eye on that. But right now, the Rockets on fire in that first quarter with 36 points. Here's a message I got from Faber Flav, who says, Chad, are we tanking next year? Need to move Ayton, Rob, and Grant. Need more bigs that will actually play. Well, no, I don't believe the team's going to tank next year. I think they're going to look to contend and become a part of the playoff picture. In regards to the bigs, I agree that Grant needs to be moved because you need to create room for Avdia and Kamara to play the majority of minutes at the forward spots. The team is at their best when you have those two guys on the floor. They were their two best players last year. There's no question about it. Now, I don't think that you can move both Ayton and Rob at the same time. And the reason why is simple. They have Donovan Clingan, who is the center of the future, it would appear. And he's coming off a successful rookie campaign. But he can't play all the minutes at center. So you've got to have somebody that can eat up the minutes at that position. So I think you could look to trade one during the course of the offseason this summer, but have another one that can split time and eat up some of the minutes at center. So I would look to move Robert Williams, although that's going to be tough because of the injuries. But with DeAndre Ayton, he's going to be a free agent after this upcoming season. So he has 1 year left on the deal. At the very worst, he comes off the books. Or if you're able to trade one during the offseason, then you could turn around and keep, let's say, Ayton on the roster to begin the year, and you've got someone to eat up minutes, and then maybe you can look to deal him by the trade deadline. And if nothing goes down, then you can turn around and move him at the trade deadline, or just let him come off the books at the end of the year. But I would say out of those three, Grant has got to be the priority because you need Avdia and Kamara to start. The problem is with Grant's price and the amount of time left on his deal, that could be a little more challenging. And then Paul chimed in, Chad, who does Sean think the Blazers will target for new assistants and or what type of coaches, ones that develop young players? Well, I asked him that question, and he's got some ideas, but he's not comfortable discussing the specific names yet until he has a chance to cross-check with a couple others of his sources. So there you have it. But the names he threw at me off the record were experienced guys who could definitely come in and help make a difference. The one thing you got to remember about Chauncey Billups is he's got a lot of connections around the league. He's got a lot of good relationships around the NBA. As I mentioned before, everywhere except for Portland. Outside of Portland, everyone understands the value of Chauncey Billups, and he's well-liked and beloved around the league. So my thought is that with his connections and the amount of relationships that he has, he's not going to have an issue finding coaches or valuable assistants that he can add to his staff. And more importantly, I think, as good as the assistants were last year, find guys who are even more talented who will be able to continue to drive home the concepts that they want to run on both ends of the floor. So I'm pretty excited about that. And there you have it. Those are the two questions I got. So we got the 16-point lead right now for the Rockets, nearing the end of the first in Houston. And then you got the Timberwolves and Lakers coming up later on tonight. I want both series to be extended. I'm enjoying both series a great deal. And I would love to see the Rockets with an opportunity to even up the series in a game 6 back in San Francisco after missing an opportunity in both games 3 and 4. But it's been highly contested. And I've been impressed with the Rockets. They just, they got to be better offensively. You can't miss a bunch of free throws. What were they, 19 of 31? They missed 12 free throws in that game 4. So you got to be better. And for the Warriors, my big concern for them is just overall fatigue because you have your key guys, Steph Dre and Jimmy Butler, playing the majority of minutes. And that's fine if you're trying to win games. I totally get it. But, there's going to be compound interest involved in that decision as you move forward and likely match up with the Timberwolves. The one thing I'm certain of thus far in the playoffs, nothing that I have seen has changed my view that Boston and Oklahoma City are the two best teams in the NBA and on a crash course for the NBA Finals, although I would say Cleveland was very impressive in the first round. Even though they're playing a bad Miami team, Cleveland looks pretty legit. I don't think they have enough to get past Boston in a 7-game series, but I do think Cleveland is legit. They had a great regular season. They play the game the right way, but I think Boston, with their star power and their shooting ability, I think they just have too much for Cleveland to overcome in a 7-game series. But it's not a no-brainer. With Oklahoma City, I'm just looking at all these other teams in the West, whether it's Golden State, the Lakers, Minnesota, or Houston. I don't see anyone having enough balance to be able to knock them off in a 7-game series. These other teams have flaws. Oklahoma City does not have a flaw. Their only flaw is that they don't have a lot of playoff experience. That's it. But they're deep. They're great on offense, great on defense. They have length. They're aggressive. They're well coached. They do everything the right way. And they got a superstar in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But these first-round series have been great. Detroit and New York is quickly becoming fabulous. And I hope Detroit can force a Game 7 so we go back to Madison Square Garden to see the Pistons and Knicks battle it out once again. And the Pistons, I got to give them credit. They're young and don't have a lot of playoff experience either, but they're not cowering. They're challenging the Knicks physically. Cade Cunningham is a budding superstar, and they've been right there. They have technically outplayed the Knicks, but the Knicks, with their experience, have gotten over in a couple of key situations, and as a result, they've got the edge in the series right now. But props to them. All right, I've got this letter here. I don't know. Do you want to hear this? I may get to this coming up at 5:20. It just amazes me that someone would take the time to write a letter, and then I saw the name. I'm like, that's not their real name, is it? No way. And who writes letters these days, too, by the way? My last pen pal was my Nana. I guess I give him props for writing a letter.
Hey, kids do. My daughter did for a minute.
To who?
Well, she has a classmate who has to leave for like the last month of school and go to a different state, and so they became pen pals over the summer last year. They would write letters back and forth. Can't wait till school starts so I can see you again. And then they came back and besties, and yeah, it is kind of cute to watch the littles write letters.
There is something fun about that. I saved all the letters my Nana ever wrote me, but it used to be fun waiting for the mail to come. And when you're young, it's cool to get stuff in the mail. And it's nice to see someone's handwriting. Like my Nana had beautiful handwriting. I enjoy reading those letters. The one story that's pretty scary out there right now, my man John Elway, I feel for him right now. But did you hear what happened with John Elway? His business partner and longtime friend passed away yesterday or this morning from injuries suffered when he fell off a golf cart that was reportedly being driven by the Hall of Famer, John Elway. Jeff Spurbeck, business partner and friend and former agent of John Elway. The Riverside County, California coroner confirmed Spurbeck's death in a news release from the sheriff's office. Spurbeck was injured Saturday night in La Quinta, California, and was declared dead early Wednesday at Palm Springs Hospital. Quote, I am absolutely devastated and heartbroken by the passing of my close friend, business partner, and agent Jeff Spurbeck. In a statement released by Elway. Quote, there are no words to express the profound sadness I feel with the sudden loss of someone who meant so much to me. My heart and deepest sympathies go out to Jeff's wife, Corey, his children, Carly, Sam, and Jackson, and everyone who knew and loved him. Jeff will be deeply missed for the loyalty, wisdom, friendship, and love he brought into my life and the lives of so many others. Now, according to TMZ, Elway was driving the golf cart when Spurbeck fell off and hit his head on the asphalt. Spurbeck had been sitting in the passenger seat. Also reported that he had been on life support following the fall. The Riverside County Sheriff's Office is investigating the incident. TMZ reported that there was no indication that Elway was driving negligently when Spurbeck fell after the two men and their spouses had left a party. It says here that Spurbeck helped manage Elway's extensive off-field business empire, which included restaurants, car dealerships, and a winery. The two collaborated with winemaker Rob Mondavi Jr. in 2015 to co-found Seven Cellars by John Elway. My goodness. I go play golf all the time. Never am I worried about a golf cart or what could happen, but I do know, and I don't want to give the exact spot, but there was an incident last year that happened here in the local area at a golf course where, and this is a good reminder if you're riding in a golf cart, there was a guy who, you know, a lot of times when you're riding the golf cart, you'll have 1 foot in and kind of 1 foot hanging out, you know, because you're stopping and starting so often. Well, apparently there was a guy who he had his foot hanging out and it got hung up on a cord and drug him. He got pulled out of the cart and then went down this like drainage ditch and like had to be revived. I think he almost drowned. But the cart, once his leg got hung up, the cart like twisted around in a circle and he got all tangled up in the cord and it yanked him out of the cart and he went down in the water. So I guess what I'm trying to say is like if you're in a golf cart, even though it's a golf cart, keep both feet inside of the cart. I don't know if that's what happened here with Spurbeck, but that is just crazy. They're just out playing golf. Elway plays golf all the time. I don't ride in golf carts because I like to walk, but this just helps further my stance. I'm going to continue to walk. But that's just horrible because that's his friend and longtime partner. And now Elway's got to live with that on his shoulders for the rest of his life. Brutal. My goodness. Horrible. All right, you can reach out to me, 503-248-0620. You can find me on social at Chad and Rip City. Tomorrow, Michael Holton is going to join me in studio for a little Holton on Hoops. I reached out to him. I want to get his take on what he's seeing so far in the playoffs. So we'll get Michael Holton in and talk some basketball, get his take on, you know, what he thinks about the upcoming lottery. But I want to get his take on what we're seeing in these series. I mean, great games, right? And I love the playoffs because you get to see some young guys start to emerge. Like last year, Anthony Edwards started to pop, but this year going in, he's being treated like a legitimate superstar. And now we're starting to see him take over games, facing double teams, splitting the double teams, getting through three guys to get to the rim and score. I thought Brandon Pajinski, you know, I had Warrior fans tell me he could be their third scorer. And he struggled at points during the series, but he was huge in Game 4 when the Warriors got that critical win. I like seeing those type of performances. Cade Cunningham and Jalen Brunson continues to impress. One of my favorite guys in the league to watch. He's small, but he's got toughness. He can score from a variety of different angles, and he's just awesome. So really enjoying the playoffs. And with the Rockets, I like the way they defend and get after it. I mean, Şengün was eating it up inside until that final shot that he missed at the end of Game 4. All right, we'll come back, and I'll read this letter to you. You might find it entertaining. You can reach out at Chad and Rip City. Telephone number 503-248-0620. Chris Burkhardt is here, and we got beautiful sunshine. I hope you're enjoying your time out there on this Wednesday afternoon here in Portland. You got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. Can you imagine being the son of Falcons defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich? He was fined $100,000 by the NFL for not protecting the information he had via email with the contact numbers for the players in the NFL draft. So how it works is, or at least according to what Shedeur Sanders was talking about, who got pranked by Ulbrich's son, that there was an email chain that was sent out to all the different teams in the NFL. And Shedeur used a different phone number for this list so that if he were drafted, he could be contacted by the teams. Now, when you get information like that, it's basically protected information, meaning you can't share it. You're not allowed to share it with anyone. No one else's eyes can see that information. You know, it's supposed to be kept secured. And his son got a hold of it and prank called Shedeur Sanders and made a video out of it and put it on social media. And his dad got fined 100 G's. That is unreal. If I ever did that and my dad had to pay $100,000 for my stupidity, that's one of those moments where you loosen up the belt and it comes off. And then your dad's going to go to town on your backside. He would have destroyed me. And my dad's a pretty calm, even-keeled type of man, very wise. I can only remember a couple of times where he was on the verge of wanting me to disappear. And I had to do something really dumb. And I did some dumb things. Really dumb things. Oh, by the way, right now the Rockets are on top 55-32 with 4:51 to play in the first half. And the Warriors are playing a dangerous game right now. They haven't played big minutes for Curry, Butler, or Draymond. So they're basically throwing this game away, and they're just going to put all their eggs in the Game 6 basket back in San Francisco. All I can tell you for a team that lacks depth, this is not the Warriors of like 7 or 8 years ago. They're playing a dangerous game. It's risky. What's that saying, or how does it go? Don't F with the game or it's going to F with you, something like that. The Warriors are playing a dangerous game because if you go back to play Game 6 and you drop that, all of a sudden you're playing a Game 7 in Houston. And then if you're fortunate enough to get past that situation, then you have to go with like a day rest to take on Minnesota in the second round. Good luck with that. I don't know. Dangerous. But 4:34 to go in the first half. 23-point lead for the Rockets, 55-32. But that is unbelievable. Now, with Ulbricht's son, like, it wasn't a good thing to do, but I wasn't, like, greatly offended by it. Young people do dumb things all the time. It was a prank. It was misguided, but I'm not going to overreact to it. I think we all did things at that age that we look back on now and we're like, what was I doing? What was going through my mind? That was idiotic. Such a moron. Like, why did I do that? Oh, my gosh. Sorry about that, Dad. Sorry that I cost you $100,000. My dad would have made me work it off. My brother and I, when we were out in the country in Oklahoma, I think he was 12 and I was like 9. We took his Toyota pickup out for a spin in the countryside, Oklahoma. And we wrecked it. And I think I still owe my dad about 52 and a half hours of manual labor. And he was making me and my brother do a bunch of work in the dead summer of Oklahoma out there in the country, like picking up rocks and using a wheelbarrow to move the rocks around so he could build this walking path. And he was like, just be careful when you flip the rocks over to make sure you don't get bit by something. And he wasn't lying because you flip a rock over in Oklahoma during the summertime, we're talking like all sorts of craziness underneath there. But I never worked off all the hours because we moved to Colorado. And then, like a lot of things, my dad just casually forgot about that. I don't know what he would have done there. I'd still be in debt. 100 G's? My goodness. All right, so Rockets in control right now in Houston. I want to read this letter to you that I got last week. I get mail occasionally, and I'm always fascinated by it because, you know, people that take time to send letters, like I respect it. You know, an email is one thing, but it's much easier to send an email than to sit down and type out a letter, put it in the mail, get the postage, and that whole shebang. There are certain things that I just have learned to not like. Going to the post office, which happens occasionally, and what else? The bank. I try to avoid going to the bank, too. I mean, that's what's nice about mobile banking, the apps, and all the different things you have access to. It limits the time you have to go to the bank because inevitably when you go to the bank, there's somebody in front of you that has like multi transactions, and it takes up a bunch of time. So I got this letter, and there's no return address on it, by the way, not on the envelope or inside, but it was dated April 9th, 2025, to Chad Doing, Rip City Radio 620 in Portland, with the address of the station. And it says, Dear Chad, I tuned in today and heard you say after going to the gym today, after some type of fall you had. Now, let's pause for just a moment. I did have a fall. It was a few weeks ago. It was at night after a Blazer game and right at the end of the season. And I had come to the station because I had to do a couple of things on the computer and record a couple of items. As I got out of my car, it was dark and it's not a well-lit parking lot. I tripped over one of those parking, curbs, those little cement blocks, that they use in the parking lots. I mean, I tripped over it and I was going down face first at full speed. And luckily, I got my hands out in front of me to break the fall. And I tore up one of my calluses on my finger, and I didn't realize I was bleeding at the time, so I ended up getting blood all over myself. But the biggest thing I was happy about was that I did not smash my face, because this was later at night, it was dark, and had I hit my face, it probably would have knocked me out, and I would have been laying out there in a light rain in a dark parking lot for who knows how long. But I broke the fall, and that's one of the things that reminded me of like why strength training is so important. When you're younger, you strength train, or at least I did, because it's a little more vain. Like I want to look good, have a couple of muscles. But as you get older, it's like it's all about movement for me. Having stronger bones, better bone density, so that you can survive a fall. And I've taken a couple of falls. Like when my daughter uses bath beads in the tub and doesn't rinse out the residue, and then I jump in there to take a shower, and it's like a skating rink. And I've gone straight through the shower curtain onto the floor and been able to avoid serious injury. So back to the letter. I tuned in today and heard you say that after going to the gym, after some type of fall you had, that you were at, quote, peak Chad. That's true. After workouts, I'm on a high with the endorphins flowing. I feel like peak Chad is usually Wednesdays right around 3 o'clock after my full body workout. You said that the only things you were interested in accomplishing this year was optimum weight training or something to that effect and playing 100 rounds of golf. You furthermore said that these were the only things that you were interested in. I was shocked at your admission that everything else in life apparently paled in importance next to what you could accomplish with your body and at least the trivial pursuit of this overhyped game of golf. As George Carlin once said, golf is, quote, hitting a ball with a crooked stick and then walking after it and then hitting it again. I say, pick it up, a-hole. You're lucky you found the effing thing. Put it in your pocket and go home. He saw the game as meaningless, mindless, arrogant, elitist, and racist. The whole of this comment is attached. And he did. He attached the entire quote from Carlin. He went on to say, you may want to reconsider your goals and do meritorious things such as volunteering to help people, reading the 100 best novels, working on your salvation, being responsible for the maintenance of a city street, etc. I am not sure that Portland needs peak Chad. Sincerely yours, Ray Jablonski. Now, I'm not saying that that's not his name, but the only Ray Jablonski I've ever heard of is the one who played professional baseball back in the 50s and 60s for like the Cardinals, for Cincinnati, and for the Giants. So I'm not even sure that Ray Jablonski is his real name. Now, in regards to my strength training and my golf habits, I do love the game of golf. I started playing golf seriously about 5 years ago, maybe a little over 5 years ago. I started working with a coach, Nick Warren at Golf Tech, and he is awesome. And that was really born from a discussion that I had with my dad where he said something along the lines of, there are more things to life than just work. And I think what he was trying to encourage me to do was find a little more work-life balance. because I spent so much time at the station working and covering games and doing this and that, but not really having an outlet, something else that could bring positive into my life. And so when I met Nick and started working with him, I really discovered my love of the game of golf. And my main pursuit of the game is I like to challenge my fears in life. So if there's something that I come across that I'm either a little bit afraid of or I don't have the confidence that I can do something, I like to challenge those fears because I think, you find some growth when you challenge your fears. And so for me, I never thought I could really improve at the game of golf because it was so difficult. But I started working with Nick and I started investing time and I started improving. And now I enjoy playing so much because of the work I put in with Nick and the practice time. But most importantly, it's given me an opportunity during the non-busy months of my work life, which means outside of basketball season, to where I can spend time without a screen in front of my face, working individually on the game and the process and the self-control and being able to deal with the challenges that come with the game. And then also at the same time, meeting new people and friends to connect with on the golf course, which I truly enjoy. And I've made some great friends and had some terrific conversation, face-to-face conversation without having to text someone or have a screen in front of my face. So the game of golf has been very much a positive. I mean, it's important to me. Golf's not the most important thing in my life, not even close, but it is a big part and something I use as part of my physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual growth, because you learn how to work on something, to focus on something, to overcome the obstacles and improve. Now, my workouts, those are a little bit different. I've had the same workout partner for over 30 years. I started working out with Luke, who's also my best friend, back in 92. And he and I have been together ever since. We train together. I've helped him at his club, training some of his clients. We set goals, and we focus on those goals together. And we look at our workouts as, more than just the physical aspect of things, but how we approach it, the dedication and accountability we share with one another, and then the spiritual growth that we have in the way in which we conduct ourselves. Our habits, our commitment to one another, the way we train, and how, the way we train and by taking care of ourselves, it can give us more energy to be able to pour ourselves into things that are important, like family, being dads, and everything else that we accomplish throughout the course of the day, whether it be at work or anywhere else. By taking care of your body physically, you can have more energy to pour into things that are even more important than that. And so that relationship I share with Luke is awesome. It's critical. Now, I've never heard of being responsible for the maintenance of a city street. I don't even know what that means. Is that like adopting a part of a highway? And in regards to, working on my salvation, I have faith, but, I try not to share too much of that on the radio. I mean, I don't think people want me preaching at them. I don't think they want to hear about my in-depth study on Christology or, Yeshua ben Yosef and him being the Mashiach. I mean, I could get into that, but that's not really the focus of a sports show. But there you go. That's the letter. But I love that. You may want to reconsider your goals and do meritorious things such as volunteering to help people, reading the 100 best novels. I will say this, for reading, my favorite to read is historical fiction, by the way. Working on your salvation, being responsible for the maintenance of a city street, etc. I am not sure that Portland needs, quote, peak Chad. Thank you for the letter, Ray Jablonski. Let's go out to the phones. This guy's got to be happy because his team got the best running back in the draft, the Raiders. Raider Mike is on the show. Raider Mike, what's up, buddy? Congratulations on the running back that you wanted.
I wanted him bad. But first, before we get to that draft, Ray Jablonski, I'm going to keep hitting that ball with the crooked stick until I'm 6 feet under, brah. I'm not going to adopt a streak. I'm not going to do anything meritorious other than clean up hurricanes for this country from now on.
That's true. You're helping
That's
people.
it.
You are helping people with FEMA.
Yeah.
What does that mean, though, Raider
So,
Mike? Being responsible for the maintenance of a city street. What does that mean?
Good luck with that in Portland. How you gonna get all those tents out of the way? Have fun with that, bro. We have some new members to the Ass Hat Brigade. We haven't visited this for probably about a year, Chad. And the list is long. We can go over it, but we're not. We're just going to go to the two guys that are going to get added today. That guy you just mentioned, Ulrich is his name?
Oh, yeah.
Jax?
Yeah, Jeff.
The son of that coach?
Yeah, Jeff Ulbrich. Yep.
Yeah, Jax Ass Hat, Ulrich, whatever your name is. What are you doing, bro? Shador was, the Raiders were like on him. And the disconnect between him and Brady now, I need to figure that one out. Because we let him just get drafted in the 5th round to Cleveland. There's something off there,
Yeah,
bro.
but how telling is that, though, that Brady mentored Shador and the Raiders passed on him multiple times? That tells me right there that Brady's like, nah, we'll pass on that guy. That's what it tells me.
Yeah, I know. It's just that's what it tells me. I know there's a deeper story there, and it'll come out eventually. I just don't know. The next one. Hey, Halliburton. You jackass. Tyrese's dad. What are you doing? I'm surprised Giannis didn't curb stomp his ass right there at courtside. Full American History X. Boom. You're done. You don't ever get to talk again to me. That was ridiculous. I don't know what's going to happen with that. Put that guy up in a suite. Never courtside again. Come on, dude. Just really. Anyway, the Asshat Brigade segment is over.
All right.
Hey,
how much pride? Hey, how much pride are you going to have watching Ashton Jeanty walk out in the silver and black this year?
And what he's going to do is what because we also got that.
Hey, you better get a hold of his phone number and call Ashton Jeanty and be like, dude, you're playing for Pete Carroll. Get ready because you're getting 30 carries a game, bro. Better get in the weight room.
You're hey, Marshawn Jr. But he doesn't mind that. He don't care. He almost took my Ducks out single-handedly at Autzen. That dude he's Barry Sanders Jr. is what he is. He's a little bowling ball with razor blades attached to it. You can't bring him down, man. And it's going to be fun to watch. And then you got Besh, our second-round pick. That dude's Hines Ward. I don't know if you've heard his interviews yet. He's like, I'm going to go out and clock somebody. I'm going to put him down into the ground. That's a receiver saying this. I'm like, I love this kid. This is Raider. This guy's a Raider. So anyway, it was a good draft.
No, I'm telling you, dude, you got stuff to be happy about because your team, they're not a rudderless ship anymore, man, with Pete Carroll. He knows how to rebuild things, Raider Mike, and he's going to bring direction to the program, which is nice. All right, we'll come back. I got a text message from my good friend, Dr. Mike. I will share that with you. And more reaction to Ray Jablonski. Do you think that there's no way that's his real name, Ray Jablonski? You think this is his real name, Burkhart? I don't know.
No chance.
All right. 503-248-0620. Big thanks to Raider Mike. He's happy. The Raiders got Ashton Jeanty, but he's also bitter because they didn't draft Shador. But Tom Brady mentored him, and they passed on him like multiple times. That tells you something. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad Doing here in your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, Rip City Drive. My good friend Dr. Mike has chimed in, and he says, regarding mice and rats chewing up your auto wiring, open hood with LED work lights pointing into the engine area at night, plus rope lights under engine area. Learned this in Arizona, and I still do it with my 4 vehicles. Never had a problem, but I am sure it works. Regarding the letter from Ray, it isn't what you do, it's how you do it. Well, I appreciate that, Dr. Mike. I got to be honest with you about the that nest underneath my hood. I had no idea that kind of stuff took place. And like I said, I would have never thought. I mean, I'm going somewhere all the time, right? Especially at the time they found the nest, driving back and forth the Motor Center, Spirit Mountain, doing all these different things. Like my biggest thought was, did I transport like some rats or mice or squirrels down to like Spirit Mountain Casino? I just never knew that happened. It was just funny to me, like, hey, did they take that nest out? No. Well, can you have them do that, please? Well, sir, I can, but technically, we're not pest removal. We're technicians. Yeah, whatever. Just take it out. But they were going to leave it in there. But anyways, I just thought that was wild. But they told me that the reason why they do it, I guess it makes sense. It's, it's warm and it's dry. And, of course, we have, obviously a lot of rain and moisture this, that time of year. So that's why they look for a better place to do it. You would just think that, like, hey, Dad, why is our home always moving around? Like you would think that maybe they'd be smarter than that. But anyways, pretty crazy. I got another message from the 503 in regards to the letter from Ray Jablonski. Hey, Ray, you do what you want in your spare time, and we will do what we want. There you have it. We all have different ways to, spend time or our free time, but I just love being on the golf course for a variety of different reasons. I love the movement, being able to walk. I love being out. I go out most 99.9% of the time early morning. I like the sound that the birds make in the morning time. They sing a different tune than you do in the afternoon. I like seeing the rabbits out. I love seeing the mama duck lead her little ducklings to the pond and then letting them enter the pond and then teaching them how to swim. The bald eagle and the respect that all the other animals show for the bald eagle out there on the golf course is pretty awesome. Like I was up on a hole, I think it was hole number, this is out of Heron a couple of days ago. Might have been hole number 5, the par 5. Like this woodpecker was on this old piece of wood, this tree, and he was hammering away. And I'm just watching him, and I'm like, how in the world is there a bird that can move his head like a jackhammer? You ever thought about that? Like he's just sitting there just ramming his beak into the wood, and yet he's not concussed. He's not in concussion protocol. And I just told him, I said, dude, you need to go see Dr. Mitch for a chiropractic adjustment. But it's amazing that he could do that. Like the woodpecker is like one of my new favorite birds. I wish my head could do that without damage. But the woodpecker, I love all that. And not having a screen in front of my face. Do you ever feel like why am I always staring at my phone? I'm always looking at a computer, like 95% of the day, looking at this, looking at that, got the phone in front of my face. I feel like my eyes are going to burn out or I'm just going to meld into my phone. But when you're on the golf course, the phone goes in the bag, you turn that bad boy off, and then you're out there walking and having, like normal human interaction, face-to-face, chit-chat. I like that. I like the interaction. And then the challenges that come from the game. Overcoming a bad hole and then being able to let that go and then focus on the next hole and continue to go through your process. I learned so much from playing with that LPGA student in Colorado last year. Like, no matter what the result was, her reaction, her approach, her setup, her process, all the same. It was amazing. All right, big thanks to our guest today, Casey Bay, for his Beefwater one-man march for autism. He made it today. And right now, I think the latest total, close to $8,000 raised for the Autism Society, which is awesome. Big thanks to all of you who supported. Big thanks to Chris Burkhart for coming in today. Sean Hyken for joining us in studio. And to all of you, I appreciate your time. Enjoy the games tonight. Now, tomorrow, Michael Holton is going to join me in studio at 5:20 for Holton on Hoops, and we'll get his take on the postseason. All right, you guys have a good night, and I will talk to you tomorrow here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio.